Hey guys, we're going to make sure everyone gets their weight off today. We're going to have a fast-paced practice. Keep your sweat going, and make sure we go over some little details that we need to fix.
If you look at the Sahuarita wrestling room right now, it's absolutely packed. But it didn't start off that way.
I got hired here like in May when I tried to have an off-season program, and I had 2 kids coming. And my dad was just like, stop wasting your time, stop driving down, and like you're gonna burn yourself out and just frustrate yourself. And I mean, he was right, and I did. It just kind of picked me out when it was been, kids were playing other sports, and I couldn't really get the kids that I wanted to in the room. And then we put together a list of kids that had wrestled in middle school at Sahuarita Middle School, that were here on campus and they didn't wrestle when they were in high school, or kids that wrestled in high school for a year and then didn't come back and compete. And that we tried to get as many of those kids as we could, and we got 9 of them.
Even though there was a lot of doubt at first, Coach was not ready to give up.
Your dad's a legend in the wrestling community, so he knows a lot. So for him saying that, I might have put you in perspective. Like, am I doing the right thing?
Man, that's stubborn. And even, I mean, there's very few people that I listen to, or very few people that I seek out advice or their opinions, and he's one of them. And I value his opinion, but at the time I was just, bullheaded, and I wanted to make it happen right away, as quick as I could. And yeah, we just didn't have the kids to do it.
Change didn't come by accident. It came from building the future first, working with younger Sahuarita wrestlers, establishing a middle school program, creating a pipeline that would one day feed this room and build something bigger than anyone could ever expect.
That first year, I was teaching right here at SMS, and I had a bunch of kids in my class that wrestled on the SMS team. And the following year, I moved over to Wrightson when they opened, and I started, um, getting those kids involved in our wrestling club and our off-season club. And the younger you get them involved, the more successful they're going to be. And so even now, like our whole purpose for our middle school wrestling here is just like to get the kids introduced to it, to get them to like it and to want to be a part of it. And once that happens, they kind of take off, and they get more involved and more dedicated as they go.
Roll the footage. Today, the expectation for the program is simple. Have a team on the mat in February ready to compete for a state championship every single year. And what's the culture? What's the standards here at Sahuarita Wrestling?
The standards are high, and they're always going to be high for us. And it's not. I mean, the goal is to win a state championship every year, but right, the standard is we want to put a team together on the mat in February that's going to compete for a state championship. And I don't know, the last few years it's been realistic, right, to shoot for a state title every year. We've had the kids to do it, but like I mean, I know somewhere down the road, high school sports is just so cyclical. Like you get a good group of kids, and then a good group of kids, and good group of kids, and then eventually you're not going to get it, right? There's going to be a gap year or 2 gap years where you have really good group of freshmen, and then those guys, once they get to juniors, you haven't refilled that spot behind them. So we're trying to keep that going as much as we can. But the goal is when we get to February, the team you put on the mat is capable of competing for a championship, and I mean that's the goal for us. And 6 years in a row, we got second. 2 years in a row, and then the last 4 years we've won. So 6 years in a row, we've got a shot.
Yeah. You look around the wrestling room, you see state champions everywhere, but above all that, you see a family.
I train with guys who are top level state champs. It just makes me realize that the competition I'm going to go against isn't going to match who I wrestle with in the ring. It's just the atmosphere we have going on here. I enjoy getting better with them. I enjoy wrestling with them every day. We're like a big family.
The brotherhood with these guys it's just awesome to be a part of. Richie, Niemer, Serge, Nate, like I've had those guys since 5th grade. That group of juniors, we've all been together traveling around the country since 5th grade. And I don't think I'm old enough to be a father figure type, at least in my eyes. I'm sure they think differently, but I definitely feel like older brother type and try to provide them with some guidance in wrestling and in life. I mean, it's just camaraderie in this sport and with this group is second to none.
You talked about building that wall so that everyone can see like their uncles, their grandfathers, and stuff like that. When you walk in the Sahuarita room and you see the idea that you have 4 banners of state championships, what does that mean to you?
State championships are awesome, and I love it. Like the feeling is great and second to none, and being able to do it with these guys and the group of kids that we have, and just, I mean, there's people that go through their high school careers without winning a state championship. And we had a kid last year graduate with 4 individual championships and 4 team titles, and another one graduate with 2 individual titles and 4 team titles. Like he left with 6, which is just is incredible to me. But to be able to provide that experience for these guys, like as a team, if we win as a team, everybody wins. Everybody in the program wins, even the girls, right? Girls are part of it. We don't separate the girls from the boys. They're doing the same practices that we are. They're working just as hard as we are. And that program's going to come up very soon. But you know, I mean, it's a great feeling, but the state championship is not everything.
2 wrestlers in a room to 4 state championship banners hanging on the wall. And still, Coach still says it's not everything. Because there's a bigger purpose. Wrestling is one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life, and the mindset that is built in this room goes far beyond the mat. This is about preparing young men and women for life after wrestling. You know, one of the big things is growing these kids and great human beings afterwards. How important is it for you to make sure these kids develop a mindset they can take in the real world from wrestling?
I think that's like difficult too, because wrestling is so hard mentally and physically. And I tell our kids, this is probably going to be, unless you go to some kind of elite training or some super rigorous academic program, medical school type thing, this is going to be the most physically and mentally challenging thing that you do in your life is high school wrestling in our program. And they grow from it. And we just kind of prepare them for that. And as they move on, you know, we hope that we have developed the tools in them that they can deal with problems as life goes on, right? And they're not going to get bogged down by life or whatever circumstances they have. They're not going to be playing the victim role. They're going to be, you know, putting their head down and go through the wall. They're going to push through, and they're going to know that they can do hard things.
And then one last question. You know, we're in the Pavasas area of Sahuarita wrestling. When it's all said and done, what do you want your story to be remembered by?
I mean, so there's been some negative talk from people outside of our program, which is fine. I mean, everyone's going to have something to say, but the important part to me is that the people on the inside of the program, our kids and our coaches, know that I treated them right and that I did right by them. And to me, that's more important than anything else, because the people on the outside don't have the experience on the inside. They don't have, they haven't been inside. They don't know what's going on the inside. They don't know why we do things a certain way. They don't know why we do anything. But our kids do, and you know, if we have to explain it to them, we do. And they're, you know, they're understanding. I mean, they're young adults. They start to figure it out, and they know if you're here for them or if you're here for yourself, and you're here for your ego or you're not. And they figure that out. And so, I mean, there's other programs that people come through, and there's other programs that people will leave, and you know, I hear them talk about their head coach or their coaching staff or the people that they had involved in the program, and they don't have any positive things to say. And for me and the kids that leave our program, you know, that's not the case, and that's what I want. You know, I don't want the case to be that they have negative things to say about our program or their experience with us, because that's not what we're about.
Thanks for having us, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys.